Welcome, everyone. I'm Ozan Kaya, CEO of Voltage Park. I'm joined by our partner, Jorge Colindres, co-founder of Radical AI. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
For those that may not be familiar, can you just tell us about Radical AI and the kind of work your team's working on?
Yeah, definitely. Happy to. So the easiest thing I like to do is tell people to take a step back and just think about all of the industries that are out there in the world right now, whether it's aerospace, automotive, energy, semiconductors, consumer electronics. All of these things are rooted in advancements in material science. But material science has a couple of core problems. Number one, it can take 10 years plus to come up with a new material. And then the cost associated with that new discovery is usually north of $100 million. Those two things really are rooted in the sort of disfragmentation that exists within material science. We have people working on different challenges, different problems, different spaces, and none of them are really collaborating well together. And so you have this really long timeline and cost factor that comes out of it. That's the problem that Radical AI is trying to solve. We're trying to bring machine learning and autonomy in order to address that and bring more efficiencies to some of the big creations that we think unblocking materials will allow us to have.
That's awesome. So how specifically does artificial intelligence help accelerate your discoveries? You know, when you think about the field more generally, in more in ways like the traditional methods couldn't do, because obviously like public and private companies have spent hundreds of millions of dollars, like you alluded to, and billions of dollars to accelerate us and reduce costs over time. What is it about what you're doing now that is leveraging AI?
Honestly, if we just think about how traditional material science works, it's a very slow and old process that's honestly dominated by trial and error. It is the scientific method. That's what we've all learned from grade school and beyond. And so machine learning isn't just an iteration or an improvement on that process. It's actually a fundamental rethinking of how we approach science, especially within materials. And it really treats that process as a continuous stream of intelligence from how we design, eventually create, and then test a material. That's really what machine learning allows us to do, and that's why we get this new scale that comes out of it. There are really two core areas that we're focused on at Radical AI in terms of applying machine learning to material science. Number one is the design and the discovery of new materials. And so if you think of the chemical landscape or the chemical space where materials can come out of, it's effectively infinite. There's an actual number, I think it's something like 10 to the 80, but it would be the equivalent of a little grain of sand across a giant beach the size of the Earth. And so when you're talking about a space that's that large, you really do need an improved way of getting at questions and answers within that. And machine learning can really help us do that much more effectively. Once you've found interesting materials, you also want to be able to predict their properties. And machine learning has gotten very good at helping us do that as well. And so that's sort of like the design and discovery side of things. Machine learning allows us to design and discover materials with better properties a lot more effectively. The second area where machine learning comes into play is actually the experimentation side of materials. And that's a big focus for us at Radical AI. We're developing a self-driving lab, which is a fully autonomous lab that can perform experiments not just at higher throughput than humans. We're aiming for like 50 to 100 times higher throughput than the standard human-driven process. But in addition, it allows us to bring intelligence and feedback and learning into that entire process. And this is where machine learning comes into play. To make it sort of very easy to understand and direct, you can think of images that might come out of a microscope. A human can only analyze a couple of those at a time, and they can start to draw patterns from that, but there's limited scale to their ability to do that. Machine learning allows us to really approach almost infinite scale when it comes to drawing correlations, understanding different pieces of information, analyzing that data in real time, and then connecting it back to that design phase as well. And so that's the second area where we're bringing machine learning into the process.
That's great. I know that one of the goals that we have 130 employees. I think you guys are at 35 or 40. Yeah. We're both scaling our teams, but more efficiently, like you alluded to. And so we're both focused on culture and talent.
Yeah.
So when you think about the team members that you've been hiring more recently, once they onboard for both machine learning engineers and then just more traditional engineers, what's the one thing that they're just like so excited about given the breadth of opportunity?
There are a lot of technical challenges and interesting things that we do within the company, but I think the biggest thing that people come to Radical AI to do is to really solve some of the hardest problems. And so you talked about culture and how that's important to Voltage Park. That's the core driver for how we bring people into our company as well. And my co-founder loves to say this all the time. Whenever we pitch people on joining Radical AI or we're doing an interview with them, we make it very clear that this isn't a job. This is really a mission. You have to subscribe to that mission. And if you're willing to do that, then you should come work at Radical AI. And the mission is really going after some of the hardest problems in the world where material science can fundamentally unblock them and allow humans to achieve different things that we could only ever dream of. Being able to drive an electric car from coast to coast, being able to travel to a different planet, being able to tap into a power grid that's backed by safe and sustainable nuclear fusion. Those are the kinds of problems that we want to enable. And if you are excited by that, then Radical AI is the kind of place for you. So that's really the main reason why people choose to join Radical AI. On top of all of the interesting technical things, we're doing, quantum chemistry, we're doing machine learning, of course. We have a lot of software engineering, mechanical engineering, and robotics. But at the end of the day, it does come back to the mission.
Yeah, I think the mission is really important for us at Voltage Park, and it keeps employees here for the 5 to 10 year journey that we're both
Absolutely.
on. Yeah. Obviously, having just walked here through New York City, have passed a lot of different situations that involve material science.
Yeah.
And I took material science in college, but it's been a while since then. Can you kind of dimensionalize this into something that like kind of everyone can understand?
Yeah.
Like, what's a perfect example of like an actual use case of something that you're working on that?
Yeah, I'll give you two. Two because one will be a little bit more straightforward, and the other one really starts to get at, again, these really big, hard problems that we're really focused on solving at Radical AI. And so I'll start with that one. And I touched on it in passing just now, but nuclear fusion is something that I think we all know would really unlock a different form of energy that's much, much more powerful for all of us. But it's been really hard. We've been working on nuclear fusion for more than half a century, and we still don't have it yet, at least not a commercially viable reactor. And so a big part of that is because there are materials challenges throughout the reactor. But if you think of what a nuclear reactor is, it's effectively like a miniature star in a bottle. And so you have this really hot plasma that acts as the fuel source to the reactor. And most of it is contained by these ultra strong magnets. And so you've got this magnetic confinement around the plasma. Some of that plasma does leak out though. And when you have the plasma leaking out, it can cause damage to the walls of the reactor and erode it down over time. And that's obviously really bad if you're spending millions and millions of dollars investing in nuclear reactors. You can't have them breaking down. And so there's a critical component within the reactor called the diverter. And it acts as sort of like an exhaust where it basically absorbs that, or basically exhausts out the that leaked plasma. And so the diverter itself is getting constantly bombarded in this extreme environment where the plasma is hitting it. And so, to put it in perspective, I think the heat that the diverter is exposed to is something like 10 times hotter than a space shuttle is exposed to when it's coming back down to Earth. Wow. It's just unbearably intense environment. And so the diverter itself, of course, breaks down over time and erodes. And the materials that we have for the diverter right now, they just don't work. They don't last long enough to sustain the lifetime of a nuclear reactor. And so we're actively looking for a replacement to that diverter right now. That's a core materials problem that actually prevents us from ever having a commercial nuclear reactor. On the other end of the spectrum, you have things that are a little bit more direct and digestible to most of us. You can think about your sneakers. And usually there's a trade-off here in the sole of your sneaker. You can have something that's super comfy, but it probably breaks down very quickly. Or you can have something that's very, very durable, but it's probably pretty stiff. And so we're constantly making this trade-off when it comes to the sole of a sneaker. And in the ideal scenario, you would have something that is not only very durable, but also very flexible and soft and comfortable. And that's a core materials problem that a lot of the industry is focused on right now. You couple that with sustainability goals that some of these big companies are going after right now, and you really have a multi-parameter optimization problem within the material space itself. And we're in conversations with a bunch of big companies across a bunch of different spaces, and they're solving these kinds of problems on a regular basis. And they are asking Radical AI to help them solve them in a more efficient and fast process.
I think I can speak on behalf of myself and all my friends. We're excited for shoes to be more comfortable.
Me too.
So
Me too.
Thank you very much. Given we are startups and we're scaling with employees and we obviously are hiring tons, one of the scarcest resources we have is time.
Yeah.
And so, given the huge opportunity set that you've already talked about, focus becomes really, really important. Are there metrics you look at as far as like what to focus on, or is it more gut and intuition of what you in the material science space should focus on next?
It all starts with the customer for us. When you think of how traditionally materials R&D has been done, there are really sort of two camps to it. You have academia, which drives fundamental research, and they're working on some of the hardest problems within space right now, but there's no commercial mindset there at all, right? They're just trying to push science forward. And then on the other end, you have commercial R&D. It's really focused on solving problems that are very specific to end applications and end customers, but usually that's in marginal ways, right? We're trying to improve certain products or certain processes in a way that it drives at our bottom line. And so there's this giant white space that sits in the middle, and this is where Radical AI is trying to step in, where we can couple fundamental research with true commercial value at the end of the day. We think that a company should exist that really brings those two things together. And so the way we go about it is by always speaking to customers. And so we're focused on solving fundamental problems, but we're doing so with a commercial mindset by always incorporating some of the needs and conditions that a customer would bring to the table. On top of that, there's just the ambition of the company as well. Again, when we started the company, we were dead set on building a company that was going to solve some of the biggest problems in the world. And so when we think about the materials challenges that we want to go after, we're not only focusing on where we can drive commercial value, but also where we can really push humanity forward, where we can start to unlock some of those bigger and better things for all of us.
That's great. And I think for Voltage Park, we sponsor NAIR, and we're very focused on kind of bridging the gap of government access to GPUs. And obviously, a lot of colleges have de-emphasized funding just given what's happening with the government, and a lot of corporations are reducing their spend. So it seems like a great through line for you guys and the right timing.
Yeah, absolutely.
In material science, we've seen that some of the workloads are smaller. Some of them can be very, very large.
Yeah.
Whether you're doing massive, simulating molecules or running optimization loops. How does access or the ability to get access to large GPU infrastructure change how you approach these problems versus if Radical AI was around maybe 4 or 5 years ago with older hardware?
Yeah, GPUs have honestly changed the way that we can approach the computational side of science at large, but certainly within material science. And a big part of it is just this parallelism that we get access to now. And again, I mentioned this earlier, but the scientific process has really been a sequential step-by-step process. And the way you can actually explode scale is by doing multiple things at the same time. And GPUs are just very, very good at that. Even before, when we were tapping CPUs to do high-performance computing and things like that, you weren't able to get the sort of parallelism that you can get out of a GPU nowadays. So, this sort of change in mindset of how we can approach multiple problems or multiple sort of sub-problems at the same time is a big part of it for us. And obviously, working with infrastructure providers that can really allow us to effectively use the best-in-class compute and all of the software and infrastructure that needs to sit on top of that in order to leverage it in the right way is a big part of why we worked with Voltage Park.
Appreciate that. And we hear this from other customers as well. And as you guys are building, one of the reasons you're here today is you're building Radical AI on Voltage Park.
Yeah.
From your perspective, and I think people listening would love to hear your perspective, what is it about our GPU-focused infrastructure that has kind of given you a competitive advantage, versus working? I know you've worked with hyperscalers in the past. You've worked with other neo clouds. What about Voltage Park has provided an advantage for you guys?
There's probably three things, and we spoke about this earlier, but there's probably three things I would say that really feel us, help us feel excited about continuing to partner with Voltage Park. And number one is speed. We're a startup. We try to move very, very quickly. Speed is everything to us at this point. It is our biggest differentiator. And Voltage Park has always been a partner in terms of helping us iterate quickly, helping us offload some work to you guys, responding to our needs as fast as possible. And so the speed of execution has really been the number one driver for how we're able to effectively use this infrastructure. Number two has been reliability. Of course, these things are complicated, they're complex. Oftentimes they do go down. And when you're running really long-standing jobs, whether it's a training run or something like a quantum chemistry workload, reliability starts to become pretty paramount. And Voltage Park has just been second to none in terms of the reliability that you guys have provided. And then the final aspect has been this sort of high-touch support and service, which I know you and I have spoken about in the past, and really is sort of going the extra mile. And we'll probably get into a couple of ways that you guys have done that for us in the past. But knowing that you guys are true partners, Voltage Spark is a true partner to Radical AI, is really going beyond just customer support or customer service. And that is probably the third key reason why this has been such a good partnership.
I love the misnomer that this is like, putting Legos together like you're in the kids section at Target. And unfortunately, it couldn't be farther from the truth. And so I think the ability for a company to scale, customer service wide to provide that for you and other customers is not trivial. And I think you're experiencing that firsthand. And maybe just to kind of double click on one of the things you just mentioned, we had previously talked about our ability to deploy managed Kubernetes for you. Yeah. And you guys were actually like our pilot partner where we deployed it within, days to like a week.
Yeah,
which is,
I think it was days.
Which is like, amazing, but our team is so great that we were able to do that. Can you kind of recap that moment as well as, focus on more on like why the responsiveness for you guys is so important versus just like the raw computing power, which the reliability is important, but just like the responsiveness and that 4 seasons experience, why does that make a difference for you, allowing you to move from research to production so quickly?
Yeah, I mean, look, at the end of the day, the chips themselves are a commodity, right? We know that you can get them in a bunch of different places, and some of the things that Voltage Spark does makes it a lot easier to tap into that commodity. But the like you said, the 4 seasons high touch support is a huge aspect of it. And as it relates to the Kubernetes case, when we first were speaking to your team, we said, hey, we run on Kubernetes, and you guys don't seem to offer managed Kubernetes. We can do it ourselves. That's not a big deal. We'll install it. It's going to take us a little bit of time to get up and running. And unprompted, John, who's here with us today, I think said, we can do that for you. We can spin up a managed Kubernetes service. A couple people have asked for it, and you guys seem like you'd be a great pilot customer to give this a run. And so we said, sure, let's give this a try. And it was honestly in a matter of 3-4 days that we went from talking about managed Kubernetes to actually having managed Kubernetes live on the cluster, and now us being able to deploy our software directly onto that. And so it was more than just a continuation of what we had been doing internally and wanting to support us through that. It was, again, being able to do this sort of high-touch experience, really customer-driven approach, coupled with fast execution and speed and bias towards action that really, to us says Voltage Spark is an amazing partner to work with.
I think I'm going to have to stop mentioning 4 seasons so much, or I'm going to start paying the team more. But I think, one of the things that the team, and we have a great team, we focus on is just like speed to trust. Because you're working with a lot of different neo clouds or other hyperscalers, and you're making judgments in real time of like, who do I trust? And
absolutely.
You're spending tons of money, and it's not even just the downtime. It's like that time that you're down, even if you get credits, it doesn't really matter. It's like my competitors or the market is moving away during that downtime, and we pride ourselves to provide that to you at 100%.
Definitely, and when even before we became a customer, when we were just having early conversations, I remember the Voltage Spark sales team was saying yes to almost everything, and at one point we said something's got to be going on here. And the reality was you guys just seemed to really care about what you said, right? You're not focused on us being a customer for 1 to 2 years. You're really thinking about a partnership that's going to last a decade plus. And so a lot of this, yes, we can make that happen. Yes, we can do that for you is more around thinking about this as a true long-term partnership than anything is what it feels like to us.
And your feedback has helped us grow the product even since you started, 6 months ago.
Yeah.
I'm sure some of this, maybe you can't mention because it's proprietary, but everyone listening is on FriendDA. What are some of the future collaborations that you're working on that you're the most excited about, that is getting people that are joining Radical AI the most excited about?
We have a bunch of collaborations ongoing. A couple that I can definitely talk about in public. One is with a company called Goodfire, which is a startup based in California. We've known the team at Goodfire for a while now. And so when we got the opportunity to work with them, we really jumped at it. And they're building mechanistic interpretability for generative models. And so what that means effectively for us is that we can start to use machine learning models and understand them beyond just black boxes. We can really start to understand the knobs and the dials that we can effectively turn to get to better predictions or better generations. All of that kind of stuff is super important when you're trying to think about, we are trying to drive scientific results and then eventually commercial results after that too. And so while yes, machine learning is amazing and it can do a bunch of different things, it's even better when you can actually understand how it works and how you can direct it in the right ways. And so a part of that comes from mechanistic interpretability, and it's an area of intense focus for us, and we're super happy to be working with Eric and the team at Goodfire.
That's awesome. I know you guys have only been around for 2 years. It probably feels like 10 dog years, but
Yeah.
as you're thinking about the next, call it, one, maybe there's a view of the next 1 year because things are changing so fast, even with LLMs, to even like 10 years, because we're both focused on the next 5 to 10 years building this long-term company. Where are you most excited?
Yeah, it's been about a year and a half, but it's been
I rounded up.
Yeah, but it feels like way more than that for sure. On a 1 year timeline, there are some immediate targets that we're focused on right now. The one to call out directly is, like I mentioned before, we're building a self-driving lab, a fully autonomous lab for material science. The goal within within the next 12 months, certainly, but hopefully sooner than that, is to build the most advanced material science lab in the world, bar none. We want to be operating again at 50 to 100 times faster than the traditional process. We want to be running more experiments than probably half of all of the material scientists in North America combined can run in a single year. And so we're just trying to approach a different scale of the types of experiments and the number of experiments that we can run. And so that's our immediate focus for the next year. All of that requires a ton of compute, a ton of machine learning, a ton of software to back it up and make it run effectively as well. But that's our immediate goal. Over the next 5 to 10 years and 10 years plus, it really comes back to the mission at the end of the day. Again, Radical AI was built to solve some of the biggest problems in the world. We really dream of a scenario in which materials are no longer a problem. Right? Whatever it is that you want to do, whatever you want to enable, materials should not be getting in the way. And that's because of Radical AI at the end of the day. And so that is always going to be our long-term goal and objective.
Well, no one's more bullish on Radical AI than we are. So we're excited for your future growth. Maybe, and I like to ask this question, if you were sitting in my seat, hopefully you don't have questions for me. From your vantage point, if you were building Voltage Park for your next 1 to 10 years, what would you do to support someone like a Radical AI to help enable you to go faster, other generative AI companies?
Yeah, it's a fantastic question. I mean, I think when you're talking about startups, and we've said this a couple of times, it really just does come back to, well, how quickly can you move at the end of the day? And, we're partnering with a bunch of different people. Voltage Park, of course, is one of them. And so we really do rely on our partners to keep up with us. We want to push the needle. We want to push the envelope. And a big part of it is we have really big ambitions. And so when you have really big ambitions, you almost have no choice but to start to leverage other people and partners along the way. And certainly on the compute side, Voltage Park is the trusted partner that we go with. But knowing that you guys are going to be with us in lockstep every single time we need to do something that's imperative or essential, that is just the big part of it. And so if there's one thing I would focus on if I were you guys in Voltage Park, it would be always responding with immediacy to the needs of all of your partners. And so far, that's definitely been the case. I think you guys have been beyond fast, as we've already mentioned, but I would continue to double down on that.
Sounds like we're not leaving the four-season analogy anytime soon, but we're excited. We're building more products for you guys, and the collaborations with you just help enable those and move them much quicker.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Thank you so much. This was awesome.
Yeah, likewise. This is fun.